Barua Boye. So today I want to tell you the backstory. I want to tell you the story behind the story, about the work that I'm doing and why it's so important to helping you to make a more meaningful contribution to the people who matter most in your life. But in giving the backstory, it's like telling someone about a dream that you've had. You ever notice when you want to, recall a dream, you can never remember the exact beginning of the dream. You find yourself somewhere in the middle of the action, and then these incredible events start to unfold. And then once you're right in the middle of it, suddenly you wake up and you're left looking around saying, "What happened? What happened? What does that mean?" Well, that's how the backstory is too. There's so many things and so many people that have made this particular moment possible. It's hard to know where to start. So I'm going to start with the theme. All right, the main theme of my story is problem solving. Okay, and in the beginning, the earliest problem that I had to solve was the learning problem. I came along at the time when there was no social media. There were really maybe two or three books max. And so everything that you wanted to learn about this tradition, you had to you had to talk to someone directly. You had to go to this person's house. You had to sit down in their living room or what have you, and they would do things, right? And they would start to tell you things, and you had to figure out what was important and why they were telling you this. It's like, are we in class right now, or what? Am I learning this, or like what's going on? And eventually, I figured out I'm going to bring a recorder because they were chanting a lot of things and singing a lot of things in the Yoruba, and there seemed to be an expectation that you were going to memorize these things. So I brought a recorder and I started to record. And then after recording and listening to the recordings, I realized that's not enough. I've got to write this stuff down. So I would transliterate a lot of stuff. And I mean, I'm talking about years, okay? And just figuring it out month after month, okay, that there's an expectation and this is the practice. And am I supposed to learn these songs? Am I supposed to learn these chants? Like what, you know what I mean? Like none of that was explained. So I had to figure it out. And so I recorded, then I would transliterate, and then I would go and meet with other people who were, Yoruba speakers, and I ask for their help and say, hey, let's translate this. And then over time, I came up with pages and pages and pages and hours and hours and hours of cassette tapes of songs and chants and stories and explanations, right? And over time, I eventually was able to discern, okay, this is a body of knowledge, and I can break it down this way. It can be organized. Here, this is the beginning of this. This is the beginning of that. This is what this means. This fits here, right? And making it into a puzzle that would, allow me to make sense of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Okay, and that solved my learning problem. And then as I started to develop to a point where people were now starting to come to me for different information and instruction, then I was able to pass on the information that I had processed over the first maybe 10 or 15 years of my practice. And one of the things that came out of it was I started to write books. Okay, and then from the books I started to create courses. And so now, I've completed 7 books, and I've got a number of courses that integrate those books or use those books as a baseline for teaching and streamlining your whole process. So if you buy my books and you take my courses, it's going to take like 10 years off of your journey. No lie, no exaggeration. If you download all the information that I have just in my books and my courses, you will have streamlined your learning process and cut 10 years off of that journey. Okay, so I'm happy with that. We streamlined the learning process. But now, because that part of that chapter is, I've reached a plateau, it's important to go back to mentorship more intensely, right? Because it's not enough to read books and take courses. You have to have mentorship, right? But here's the key. here's the key. Not mentorship that is limited to the shrine, because life doesn't happen in the shrine. The shrine is so important to prepare you and strengthen you and empower you to go into the bank. Life happens in the bank. Life happens in the post office. Life happens in the boardroom. Life happens in the mall and in the plaza. Life happens out and about in the city, in the community. You've got to be ready to move up and move on in every aspect of your life. Okay? It's not limited to the shrine. And that's where the mentorship comes in. How do you apply these teachings in your work? How do you apply these teachings in your business? How do you apply these teachings at your son's school? How do you apply these teachings when you're out and about in the community? This is the mentorship piece, where you learn to internalize and apply the principles and the values of Orisa Lifestyle in real time. Okay, so with that in mind, I've started to lay out, or I have laid out, 3 different areas of mentorship, right? And of course, there's sort of degrees of intensity. The least intense, month to month, you can go in and you have a limited access to me directly, and we're going to engage in some very strategic and structured conversations that will help you to make the most of all your resources and the resources that are available in the Orisa Lifestyle Academy. Then it increases. There's an ongoing process which is more intense. There's more engagement. We are on the phone, or we're having face-to-face meetings or video chatting more. And then there's a premium offering wherein this is really for folks who want to go in headlong into something. Maybe you're starting a new company, maybe you're buying a home, whatever the case may be. But whatever it is, it requires a lot of ongoing contact between you and me as your mentor or your consultant. The whole point of it, however, is to help you to leverage all the resources that I have available to you in the Orisa Lifestyle Academy, as well as activating all the resources that you have in your own life, your social resources, your material resources, right? Your knowledge resources. How do we optimize all of those things so that you can move up, you can elevate, you can upgrade what you're doing? Or if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, you may need to move on. Okay, but you need to have the proper orientation and guidance to be able to use the principles of Orisa Lifestyle to make those decisions and time them in a way that's going to be beneficial to you. And that you're making the right choice, and the value that's being added to your life by making certain choices, right? So I want to invite you to check out all the offerings that I've got available at obafemio.com, obafemio.com. And if you've got questions, select the mentorship tab and give me your information, and we'll start the conversation that will take you to the next level with your practice and your life. Aboru aboye, aboshishe.